Hey everyone, welcome to Recombinant Teaching. We're at the halfway point of the summer STEM course design series in this podcast. And in today's episode, we're going to be talking about the syllabus and the course schedule, two kind of concrete, typical, very, very important documents that are not necessarily fixed and solid and have to be uneditable because things happen, as we'll talk about, and you can need to make changes as you go. But these should be viewed as essential items in any course that you're teaching and designing, whether it's brand new or one that you're redesigning. Just remember to go back and listen to past episodes if you're interested. We gave an overview of high structure course design, talked about learning objectives, backward design, how to choose course materials, a few other things like that. And then after this episode, we'll be diving more into what happens before class, during class, and after class. But now let's get that set up with, again, the syllabus and the course schedule. So the syllabus first. Everyone has it. It's been around for hundreds of years, it seems like, looking at some past literature. And it's kind of like a contract, right? Your syllabus is kind of like your contract for what's going to happen in this class. It sets up expectations for you, for your students. Also, let's what your students should be doing for you. So it kind of goes both ways there. Some faculty these days have these kind of student design syllabi where students can give a lot of input into what kinds of assignments, what kind of policy should be in there. So you can consider doing something like that. Or you can, again, be more traditional and just do it yourself. Hopefully, though, if you've taught the class before, taught any classes before, or if you're brand new, though, you've asked around, hey, like, what are the typical policies at our campus? What do we do in our department? Is there a script, or is there a template given to us? Do I have to use the same syllabus as everyone else? So there's going to be a lot of learning you're going to do from your own past experiences, but again, what might be given to you from your university or your department or your colleagues. So make sure you ask around to see what the norm is if you're new at your institution. But one of the most important things before we dive into the nuts and bolts of it is just the language of the syllabus. How is it written? What kind of words are used? What's the tone? What's the feel? And I'm starting with this because the syllabus is often one of the first things your students will learn about you and your course. They might get an old one from a past student. They might find one online from a past class. And when you send out a welcome announcement, you probably include the syllabus. So yeah, they're going to read that welcome email first. Maybe they watch a little video from you. But the syllabus, again, is one of the very first things students read. And there's some literature showing that students will make basically decisions on who you are as a person from your syllabus. And that syllabus language is really, really critical. Are you writing your syllabus in a more student-centered tone, which includes language about support and motivation and, basically you can do this attitude? Or is it written in a more draconian attitude where it's a little more daunting and doesn't sound like a really friendly place to be in this class, right? So you want to walk the line there carefully. There is literature, again, showing the importance of student language, the importance of syllabus language in a syllabus towards student perceptions. I'll put a link to that in the show notes. There's also rubrics that have been developed that you can use to score your syllabi and others on student-centeredness, things like that. So I'll put those links in there too. There's one that was especially designed for STEM courses and STEM teaching by Brian Sato and others. It was adapted from another study. So I'll put that one in there. There's also a great one from Michael Palmer at Virginia. So I'll put that in the links too. But use these rubrics, check them out, see how your syllabus stacks up in terms of language. And again, understand the importance of the kind of first impression. As we know, as humans, first impressions mean a lot. Okay, so what goes in the syllabus? Right. Again, you might be given a template, so please do check with your colleagues and your department administrators to see, okay, is there an update here for this year on AI policy, on student support, student tutoring, whatever it might be. Make sure you get that honesty code. That's usually a big one too, but use what's given to you if you have to. If you don't, and you're starting from scratch, I have a template for you. So check out my website. I'll put a link in the notes under the materials page. I have a syllabus template you can check out. It's described in detail in my book. But you can download that and use that as you wish, or you make your own. You can get some AI help here for a template or design features. But point is, make sure it's written in a very student-friendly way. It's clear. It's easy to understand. How long should it be? More than a page, I'll say. I still remember colleagues and professors I had, passing out the syllabus on the first day of class, actual paper. It was one page front and back. That's not enough, in my opinion. Syllabi these days probably are going to be 6 to 10 pages long because they have a lot of detail on the assignments, on the assessments, on the policies, on the grading. And then there's, again, that university boilerplate you might need to put in about student success, student tutoring, dishonesty policy, things like that. So they're going to be pretty lengthy. Are you actually going to print them out and pass them out? Probably not. You're going to post them on your LMS. You're going to send them over an email. Make sure it's accessible lots of different ways. But again, this is kind of like a contract between you and your students. That's why it needs to be longer. If it's just a page listing the schedule, there's nothing in there about how the assessment works, regrade policies, late work, makeups. This stuff's important. It needs to be in there. And so that's why they tend to be pretty long. So in that syllabus, again, you're going to have a lot of different sections. You typically have a section on course materials, your learning goals for the course. We talked about that a couple of episodes ago. You'll definitely put those in there for the whole course. Maybe you put them in there for each lesson. That might get pretty long, though. So maybe it's like an appendix file. You're going to have, again, course material information. So whether you chose a textbook, OER, or a paid one, like we talked about in last episode, if you have a personal response system, an online courseware system, if you're doing a lab, what kind of PPE and safety do you need? So all that's going to be in there too. All your course components. So you're probably going to describe what kind of projects we're doing, what kind of assignments we have, what's happening before class, during class, after class. Your grading policy, you can get into some detail here too. And this is totally up to you on how you want to grade, right? There's a lot of movement these days about alt grading and alternative grading policies. Think about mastery or competency-based grading, ungrading, and then there's more traditional points-based grading. There's whatever you want to do. It's up to you. It's your decision. But as with everything with teaching, try to base it on some evidence. Try to collect either your own local data or look at published papers to see what might work best for you. You might put your course schedule in there. I personally don't put my course schedule in the syllabus because it's a little more fluid and dynamic. And I put it on my LMS on Canvas instead. And we'll talk about course schedule here in a little bit later. But if you want to put it in the syllabus, it's a fine place to put it. But again, because things happen, things change, maybe it's not the best place to put it. All of your grading policies, again, things like regrade requests, late requests, missed work, makeup assignments, if you have a common final exam policy, whatever those is, all that should be in there too. And then again, whatever other kind of standard boilerplate policies your university might have regarding student support, tutoring, needs-based services, academic honesty or dishonesty, preferred name projects, whatever there might be at your schools, you got to put that in there too, especially if your university gives you a template or material to have. So you have that. So again, they get pretty long. One thing that needs to be added these days is an AI statement, whether you're in favor of AI or against AI. And again, I kind of vacillate on the day of the week, although lately this summer, I've been more on the pro team for AI usage in education. You got to have it in there. So you can check mine out. I'll put it on in the show notes as a link if you want to see it. But mine's all about balancing karma and mindset is my AI policy. So I view AI use in education as a mindset. So we as faculty need to model how to use AI appropriately for our students. And I do that in class. So I bring up an LLM in class and I show them, hey, here's how you might want to use this for our course, for our assignments, and how you can use it productively. I teach them that AI is kind of like this little devil on your shoulder. And if you listen to that little devil, it's going to tell you, hey, I can do this for you. Just tell me what you want me to do. And it's done instantly, right? So you have to learn how to ignore that little devil on the shoulder. And again, have a good mindset and use it productively and efficiently and ethically. And we, again, as faculty are the first step in helping them with that. The second part of my AI policy in the syllabus is karma. And that's just real, right? I totally believe in karma. Karma, what comes around goes around. And so if you, as a student, choose to use AI to do your work for you on your out-of-class assignments, well, guess what? You're probably going to have an in-class quiz or exam or something, or a project or an oral thing with your professor that you're not going to have that little devil there to help you out with. So it's going to come and bite you. So, it's on you in that point. So, and that's my kind of point with online courseware too. You can, even before AI, you could easily search for answers on all of these online assignments. And if you do that, you're just hurting yourself. So yeah, mindset and karma, that's my AI policy. You can copy paste it from the show notes if you want to edit it for your course too. All right. So syllabus, again, super important. You're going to pass it out first day virtually, for me, not physically, and update it as you need. It is a contract, but it can be changed. So I usually include a statement in there how, the syllabus is subject to change. Are you going to, change a grading category and drop a whole exam or add a brand new project midway through? Hopefully not. But, things need to tweak a little bit here and there, especially the first time you're teaching a class. It's okay. You're learning. In my book, it usually takes 3 to 4 times of teaching the same class to feel good about it and really settle in. So if you realize going into offering one of your course that you have a syllabus policy that's a little too strict, go ahead and loosen it up a little bit. You're only going to be benefiting yourself and your students if you do that. Make sure you're listening to your students, you're getting feedback from them early and often. We'll have a whole episode about feedback and evaluation of teaching later on in this series, but make sure you're feeling the vibe, right, of how things are going. And just because you wrote in a syllabus for a course you never taught before that, it has to be this way, don't let that restrict you from making changes if you need to, okay? You can always change the bar. Typically, you lower it. You don't raise it during a course, but that first time, it's really hard to get the right sense. So build in a little flexibility and be okay with that. All right, course schedule. What are you doing every day? That's an absolutely critical question to ask yourself for teaching and designing a class. Some people I know like to do sticky notes. They like to get the whiteboard out. I'm an Excel guy, right? I'm an engineer by training. My wife says, I should have been an accountant or a CPA. I would have made more money working Wall Street or something because I love spreadsheets so much. But, it didn't go that route. That's okay. But I'm an Excel guy. I use that for making my course schedule. But whatever method you want to use, the point is you got your calendar for your school. You know what days of class you have. You know how many days you have. You know how many hours you have. Where are you going to put things? And it's not a nominal task. It's hard. And that's why people like the sticky notes, because they can kind of move things around, or the whiteboard. That's why I like Excel. It's easy to change things. I'll often have multiple tabs of Excel sheets there going so I can make copies in different versions. Biggest things though, don't forget your holidays. Pop those in first. I did this one year where I forgot President's Day, and man, what a waste of time. I built the whole schedule with that one day, and I had to move everything else around. So make sure you include all your school holidays and governmental holidays and days off for things. And then put in your assessments. So if you're going to be doing, the couple midterm and final model, fine, put those in there. If you're going to do the weekly quizzes, make sure you budget that time out. If you're going to be doing something in the middle, maybe like the quizam model that I do every 3 weeks, more than a quiz, less than an exam, block those days off. So just whatever it is, just block those days off. So now you're kind of reducing, right? So if you're on let's say 15-week semester, 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday schedule, you got 45 days of class. You got your first day and your last day. Typically, those are a little special for me. I do a big intro to the course, a big wrap up to the course, maybe some assessment on the last day. So those are gone. Let's say we got 3 holidays. Those are gone. Now we're down to 40. Maybe 5 assessment days. Now we're down to 35. Okay, so 35 out of 45. So I have 35 full days to actually do stuff, right? It goes fast, right? You start losing days with different things. If you have student presentation days too, you have whatever else, you're going to even lose more. But let's say you end up with 35 days for a whole course. How are you going to spend that? Well, you got your course goals set up. You already have your learning goals for the whole course. You probably have your, in your mind at this point, what the learning objectives might look like for each topic. But this is the place now where you're going to break down those topics. So if it's just as an example, anatomy and physiology, I've been teaching that for 10 plus years now. With that course, you have all the different body systems. All right, so we start with the tissues and the integument, then we do skeletal, muscular, nervous, etc. How many days do you need for each of those topics? Start popping those schedules, those days into the schedule. If you need a whole week for muscle, okay, right? Muscle 1, muscle 2, muscle 3 for those 3 days, right? You don't have to get more detail at this point, but you might want to, again, starting to write your learning objectives and putting those next there as well, so you can kind of get a good estimate of how much time you might need for each day. This is also trial and error, right? The biggest challenge to me with teaching a new course or even just a new lesson is timing. It's incredibly difficult to get the timing right the first time you do something. Again, I've been teaching A&P for, it's more than 10 years, like 13 years at this point. I've been teaching in general for almost 15 years. And some lessons I've delivered now, 10, 15 plus times, 20 plus times. And so they're really dialed in. Do they change? Yeah, absolutely. I change and update it all the time, but I have a feeling, right? I know now how long things are going to take, how long it's going to spend on the student side, how long it takes me to explain. And during the class, I'm always watching the clock. I know exactly how much more time I have left. I have a gut feeling now of when to not rush things, or when I should rush things. It's that kind of Malcolm Gladwell 10,000 hour rule, right? The more you do something, just the better, better you get at it. I'm not calling myself, the E word here, an expert, but I got my reps in, I'll say. But when you first do a class, you have no idea. Okay, you have no clue. It's really hard to do that and dial it in. So when you're picking days, let's say again, you need 3 days for the muscular system. Is that true? Do you actually need 4? Do you need 2? Do you need 1 3/4? Right? It's hard to feel that out. But so go ahead and pencil it in now with the understanding that's probably going to change. And that's why, again, I don't put the schedule in the syllabus necessarily. I put it on our LMS so I can change it as we go. And I put a big disclaimer to the schedule subject to change. Of anything in the syllabus, the schedule is the one that is most likely to change. This challenge of timing is extra difficult if you're team teaching classes. So if you're one of multiple sections, you all pretty much need to be lockstep. So if for some reason you get behind because of some student discussion that's going on during class, now you got to catch back up because you all have the same schedule. But if you're just doing one off yourself, you're the only section of intra bio, or you're doing an upper division elective, it's just your course, way more freeing, not nearly as stressful to stay on time. Thing with this too, when you're doing the lesson planning, I'll talk more about this in a later episode, but real quick, think about how much you want to cover and then cut out probably a third, because things are going to take much longer than you think. I got that advice from Michael Bruno. He was in my postdoc program at North Carolina years ago. And he told me, you think you're going to cover this much? Nope. Cut out a third. And then that way you're going to build in time for that single day of class, but that also applies to the whole schedule. Don't feel like you got to rush through everything. That's a big problem with Gateway STEM, is that we have so much content to cover in Gen Chem or Calc 1 or Intro Phys. Yeah, I get it. There's mandates sometimes from the state, learning objectives you have to agree to and work through and get through, but it's just too much. It's just too much. And how do you do that? Well, that's another question for you and your committee or your university system or your state even, to start winnowing that down. But if, again, just you and your course, you have control over that, right? You can think about alignment, like we talked about in a past episode. What learning objectives are you trying to cover? If there's a topic that you love to talk about, but it doesn't tie to a learning objective or learning goal, get rid of it. That's going to help you slim down the content and plug those days into the schedule. Another thing with a schedule is plan a catch-up day. So I love doing this. I started doing this a few years ago. And just somewhere in the middle of the semester, typically I do it right around a break. So maybe it's that Friday before spring break or the Friday before fall break. So it's around like week 6, 7, 8 somewhere. But on the schedule, I just write catch-up day. And that gives you that flexibility to catch up. So if you are a little bit behind, now you got this day where things can spill into. Now, the luxury of this, the benefit of this is that if you don't need to catch up, what happens? Okay, you get some freedom now. You can either not have class, which everyone loves found time, right? Everyone loves found time. You can just skip class that day and not do it, and everyone loves you for it, and you love yourself, you love them. It's just kind of a nice feeling. Because at that point in the semester too, right, everyone's tired. We need a break. Or you can do something new. You can add something new in. You can add a new topic. You can do students vote on the topic for the day, right? Have a fun day, right? Whatever you want to do. So, but it gives you that flexibility built in. So I'm all in favor of this kind of random catch-up day. The last piece with the schedule I'll talk about are potential snow days or weather days. So depending where you're at, you might have a hurricane day, you might have an ice day, you might have a snow day, whatever it might be. It happens, right? And so when you lose that day of class, what do? That can be a pain. That can be a huge pain. Sometimes that day is completely gone. You're not allowed to do any makeup for it. Sometimes you are though. So you're allowed to hold a virtual class online. I jump on Zoom. You're allowed to record a video and have that replaced that day, right? But again, sometimes you're not, depending on your university's policies. So in the case that you're not allowed to make it up or do a virtual option instead, you kind of have to shift everything, right? You kind of have to shift everything back a day, forward a day, whatever word you want to use, and make that work. Or maybe you just lose that day. Maybe you had a topic that day. This happened to me in intro bio years ago. We were supposed to do a day on cell signaling pathways. And I thought, you know what? I can kind of weave that in other places. I don't actually need to make this day up in a whole day in a way. So I'll just talk about cell signaling and other aspects of when we talk about cell biology. And we just basically lost a day, but the rest of the schedule stayed the same. That's easier for you, honestly, to not adjust the entire downstream schedule, especially if you have a snow day in middle of January, like you're right at the beginning of the term, and then the entire downstream schedule is jacked. So consider that too, right? Just try to maybe weave that topic into other days if it's not that. It's critical. It's critical because it ties your learning objectives, right? It's there for a reason, but there might be ways to make it kind of smooth it in and weave it in without having to adjust every single day downstream. Because you've probably done a lot of work to get that schedule and your courseware, dates, and assignments set up. If you have to adjust everything from, 12 weeks down the road, that is a huge pain. Okay, so those are some thoughts there on the syllabus, on the course schedule, how to go about when things happen. I hope this was useful for you. Again, check the show notes. I'll have links for papers, links for templates, links for my AI policy for my own syllabus if you want to copy paste that. I'll have a link too for a template for a course schedule that I use for Excel that I use to build my own courses. So you can get all those templates on my website. Click on the materials button, and then you can go from there and build that syllabus out, build that course schedule out, and then we'll start talking about, well, what do you do actually during class? What do you do before class? What do you do after class? That's going to come up in the next few episodes. Thanks for listening, everybody. Happy teaching.